Yeah, he was like, right, I'm going out anyway, so do not. And as soon as the door closed, we're like, fucking, let's tattoo each other, you know? Yeah. And that was it. I was buzzed. I was hooked. This is probably where my anxiety comes from this time of my fucking life. Like, I come in, I had my portfolio, and I was there, and she was like, and you would never fucking tattoo, man. And I was standing there,
portfolio.
Yeah. And I was standing there like I could have cried, dude. I was like, oh, I can't do this, man. Like, I went out. I was like, I didn't even take the portfolio. I was like, fuck it, you know, fuck you, fuck this. And I was walking. I was just like I'm obsessed though. You know, I can't not do it. To make it so I can draw it that fluently, I've already figured it out. So I draw it like 2 or 3 times, and then I'll make sure that it's you know, for good content online. Yeah. So I was going to make this video for people to be like, you know, the things about Instagram and the illusion of Instagram. I fail all the fucking time, and I love it.
Hello and welcome back to the podcast. I'm Alex Lloyd, and this is a 21st Century Tattoo.
We're doing it live.
Yeah, man.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, mate, I was going to say thank you for having me. Like, love the studio, man. A legacy tattoo. We'll get onto the shop a little bit in a minute, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's great to meet you. I've been looking forward. We've been trying to get this one in the diary for a little while. And
yeah, I know.
We've finally got there.
Yeah.
I guess let's start really with your tattooing, and we can kind of expand from there. Like, your style is something of its own, I guess. Very unique. And I guess I'd like to know how you define it. And really how you got it to this point.
Yeah, okay. So defining it, do you know what? When I started doing kind of like glowing animals and red scape kind of animals, because I was very straight neo-trad before, but I'll be honest with you now, that there's so many good people that do it that it's kind of hard to stand out. And I really liked before having like a little niche in your art for something, you know? So I had a customer come in one day and we was doing this, you actually see, if you scroll back far enough on my page, you'll see where my work just changed suddenly, right? And it was on this day. He come in, I was doing a wolf and I was doing some like autumn leaves with it. And we were just trying to look for a concept for the colors. And we were flicking through colors on the iPad, you know, like just trying to get something out. I was like, just randomly, it was just like, we could just do it all red. And I just swiped it to red. And then we both were like, whoa, that looks good, right? And he was like, yeah, fuck it, let's do it like that. Yeah. And it just went from there. I was like, well, if we were doing that red and then we'll do everything red with it and we'll kind of do the light source to project from red. Yeah. Did it that one time. And it's so weird how it was just a random, it's like an accident almost.
Yeah.
You know?
It was like a purposeful accident.
Yeah.
And I remember seeing that stuff and I was like, yeah, this is sick. Yeah. This is unique. I love seeing people pushing the boundaries in tattooing and doing something different, you know. Yeah. So many tattoo artists now. We're talking before we started recording about like how big the industry's got. Have you noticed, and what have you noticed maybe as like a big change in any changes in the industry over the last sort of 5 or 10 years?
I think that, you know, the different styles kind of come in and out. There's there's a lot of like trending stuff, isn't there, at the time? But I don't know if that's algorithms on Instagram, because you know what you look at and it just shows it just shows you that forever. So, and then I'll get the odd time where you'll see a new piece. I think it's because styles that already existed, because these styles have been around. There's people going to be listening to this that be like, dude, that was new school. You know, that was called new school then. You know, it's just like people had the ladder, you know, from the past and absolutely exploding the rest of it, because you think like tattoo machines are getting better, like needles, quality of things, ink companies, all this stuff, it's actually easier to push the boundary, isn't it? So you get people that are doing like these tiny portrait tattoos, you know, and they're immaculate, and, you know, some are healing great as well and all this. And you're thinking like, okay, is it because the tools are out there as well that are really allowing these artists to go, I could do this now? Yeah. Like, because it's
giving them
not
the
that it's
confidence
easy.
to do it.
Yeah, it's not that it's easy to do. I'm not saying that. It's just like, it's once you figure out the mechanism, you're away, you're there. It's like having your favorite paintbrush or having your favorite, engraving tool, Once you hit that one that you're like, oh, okay, this one's slapping, your work's going,
Yeah.
So,
but it takes years of refinement, and it's people paving the way for that. Like, I think it's important, and I don't think there's enough of an acknowledgement nowadays of maybe kind of the history of it.
Yeah. That's something that should be important.
Yeah, and I think it should be taught as well.
Yeah.
I think it's important, especially. I mean, I always try and make a real effort when I'm kind of teaching. I've had apprentices in the past, and I've got one at the moment.
Yeah,
and I think that's an important element of it. To understand that. Same with any creative industry in music, you can't have what we've got today without the past.
Yeah, I think understanding your history is one thing, but not shaping your future through history. Do you know what I mean? Because there's some things in history you can go, not that bit though. Because even if we take like take like the UK for example of like history, you can be like, yeah, I'm glad to be British or whatever, but there'll be parts of it that you go, not that bit though.
Yeah,
that doesn't speak for me and my morals, or this doesn't, So history is great for learning, but you kind of have to pick at what bits, and nodding to people that have actually paved that way doesn't hurt. It's like you get it with everything, wouldn't you? From like your Tony Hawkses to your, AC/DCs and stuff. And you hear these bands now that literally do the same thing. And it's weird when you get those interviews and they go, oh, who are you inspired by? And they would never say it.
Yeah, of course.
And you're like, wait, what? We all know. Yeah. Like, it's AC/DC.
Yeah.
And
there's nothing wrong with that, It's kind of it's taking inspiration from everything.
Yeah. That's the fun bit.
Yeah, for sure. I do want to get onto you about, because a lot of your drawing, you draw a lot. I would say, in my opinion, you are an artist's artist,
Yeah.
There are tattooists and there's tattoo artists.
Yeah.
But you are definitely pushing the boundaries with the creative side of stuff.
Thank you.
How are we defining the style? Neo-traditional?
Yeah, still neo-traditional. I think that these styles will ever be expanding, won't they? So it's like, I'd still say it was
a version of that is your thing.
Yeah, I called it neon traditional because it was all glowy and stuff, and I was like, it's close to the word.
And I guess you're working on that neon stuff at the moment. How did you get to that point then? Where has that kind of started? Have you always been a fan of that work?
Well, the thing of like when you were saying about the drawing style, this is the thing about for me with my art was because I was so obsessed with tattooing, I learned to do everything while I was tattooing. So it didn't start off like I was like this fluent artist or by any means, and still not now, but it was, I was learning as we went. And that's the same with that style. I was like, okay, well, I'm studying light source now, so I need to do a bit of background research on that and really understand it. So, but I'm this type of person. I'll get the idea and then I'm like, I'm obsessed with it now. So I'm researching, I'm staying up all night, I'm doing all this kind of thing to get it right. And once you get it right once and you figured out the mechanism, it's great. You could just repeat it, So the neon stuff then come into it because I was like, okay, well, I'm going with light source and stuff, and I need something to kind of act as the light,
Yeah.
So I liked the idea that because it's a lot of animal based, I like the idea of like where we live. It was like, I do a lot of foxes, I do a lot of like stags and do a lot of this stuff. And it was like taking the side of like the wilderness coming into like suburban life or like street life, So I liked that kind of concept for it. And in a way, it's kind of like I remember doing some artwork before and doing it as like a campaign for like raise awareness for animals, because I used to only do tattoo animals that were getting extinct, and I used to write about them with it.
Yeah.
So where the city meets the thing, because we're ever expanding as humans, that this is what we're missing out on. It's cool that it's part of the street in this concept, but is this a reality that you want? It's cooler as just a tattoo than that kind of thing. So the idea come from that, and then it kind of stuck with just like, now I do it with every animal because, people ask for everything. So
that's it. I mean, are you kind of focusing mainly on animals and stuff? And is it, you do a lot of the large scale work? Like, talk me through your process for that. Do people come to you with a specific concept, or is it a case of just, I want something from yourself?
Yeah, I think now it's people want something from me.
Yeah.
Which is cool. I'll be honest with you, when people say that, when they be like, do whatever, my brain's like, what? Like, I can't. I don't know why. I'm just like, well, that's everything. Like, I'd rather someone go, I like leopards, do what you want with it. You know, it makes it easier for me because I'm like, okay, well, at least I know it's a leopard. You know, you're giving me the whole world to choose from. It's hard. But my customers, like, man, I'll do like gaming sleeves. You know, I'll do like the other day, like I posted on the up this. It was more of a traditional piece of like a tattooed sword swallower, like lady circus thing.
Yeah,
that's not in the neon style. I'll do like twists on Japanese stuff. I only really post what I want people to see. I do a lot of stuff behind the scenes that you'd probably be surprised that I would do. Because I love tattooing, I like doing it all, and I don't want to be one of those artists there where it's like, I only do this now, sorry.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Because it's great that I have that style and it's cool, but it's like, people want to get tattooed. Everyone should get, you know, cool tattoos. So if you come in, you're like, I just like your process and how professional you are, say, as a business owner or whatever. And they say, I want to get like this Japanese half sleeve and you can put what you want in it. I'll do that.
Yeah.
You know, I don't turn that kind of stuff away.
It's good that you're open to that, you know. I feel like because Instagram is such a showcase, you obviously it's that like contradiction where you want to post the stuff which
gets a good reaction.
That you want to do more of. Yeah. But then I get them people coming to me and saying, "Oh, can you do this? I can't see any examples of it." And it's like, I still want to do that because I don't want to pigeonhole myself too much. You know, if I just kind of focus on just being good at one thing, then everything else drops off.
Yeah. And what if the trend stops? Like when you're going, oh, those neon tattoos, that was cool for that summer. Yeah. What if that happens? I'm like, fuck, well, I put all my time into that. What do I do now? Yeah. You know, because I like to practice other things because it's fun. Isn't it? You know, it's sometimes some people will come in and I'm doing something that I would really have to work to try and be like, okay, I need to think about this one because this isn't because I don't like doing that. If it's not to do with my work, I'm not like, here you go. Do you know what I mean? I hate that feeling. So I would say it's actually, I would study more the stuff that I don't do because I've already done the graft for the other stuff. Yeah. I can come in and be like, this is the concept, this is how we do it. You've seen it on Instagram. Yeah. That's it. That's easy for me. But when someone comes in and like, I want this, but like, I like this like stipple look in it or something. And I'm like, okay, like, I'm going to have to really focus and do this, you know.
But it's having the awareness and the confidence to do that because there'll be a lot of people that say, sorry, I don't do that. And you can only grow when you put yourself in an uncomfortable position.
Exactly.
And do stuff you might not be good at. So to do that, it's great, man. It's good to hear, you know. I don't think you're ever gonna be short of work though, and I think
that's
the demand for this neon, I can't see that ever going anywhere, you know. Yeah. Let's take it back. You're obviously an artist through and through. Talk to me a little bit about kind of your artistic beginnings and where you kind of first noticed your love for it and how that then developed and ended up in a tattoo apprenticeship and tattooing.
Yeah, it's kind of weird one for me because studying art at school I didn't do. I was always, in my schools at least, and they're probably the same up and down the country, this is like the dropout subject, like it's the DOS subject, you know, like you're just going to draw apples for like till you're done, you know. It might have been, I remember having some other schools and speaking to people and they're like, look, we're doing this project. And I'm like, mate, my school, I'm just drawing bananas all the time. Like, you know.
Fruit bowls. That's what it was.
Fruit bowls.
Yeah, it was still life.
Yeah. Can you get the shadow right and all that, you know? And it was boring, right? And I didn't appreciate it at the time because, like, not that my parents aren't supportive, they really are. But when you're going to hand in your grades and do all this stuff, like, and they're going, oh, he's excelling at art, but he's not doing the maths and doing the thing like the big three, you know. That was the bulk, isn't it? That's what job are you going to get as an artist?
Oh, the same thing.
Yeah. What job are you going to get? And I'm like, I don't know.
You want to be an art teacher? I was like, and that was about the only thing that everyone ever thought.
Yeah.
And that was drilled into me as well.
And now I am. I teach her all the time. It's weird.
And it's fucking sick.
They were fucking right.
Yeah. They were right all along.
Yeah. But so I never studied it at school. I used to do a bit of graffiti. It was just stencil stuff, like, you know, being a kid, and I was skating a lot and, you know, just doing some throw ups and whatever. I was always very creative. Like, if you gave me something to do, I would really enjoy doing it, and I'd try and do it well in anything, you know. But then when I left school, I was a bit out of a crossroads because I was studying philosophy and English and ethics and stuff. And I was like, what am I going to do with this as well, though? You know? And I went to my art teacher at the time, because then when they were in sixth form, art was suddenly really cool. Or the projects were really cool, you know? And I said to him, I was like, look, mate, I know I'm not going to get a mark for it. I know I can't get in the class. Can you just give me the work to do? And you can just tell me, like, a thing, you know? And he was like, if you want, you know? Okay. So I started doing that. I started really kind of coming, and then it was like school kind of had its end, it's finished. I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm thinking of just hopping out and going into the military. That was my thing, man. I was like, I wanted to be a Marine, like hardcore, you know? So, you know, got a whole dynamic with my family. My mum don't want you to do that, you know, all that kind of stuff. So,
do you think that made you want to do it more?
I went to this course, you know, where it was like a teaser. You could sign up for the military afterwards. It was 6 weeks. And you go with the military and you did some cool stuff, shooting guns, do trekking, do basic training stuff, you know, all that. And I went, and I remember coming back out of it, and I was like, I had a summer then before I could do whatever I wanted. And we were in bands and making music, and my friends were getting tattooed who were older than me. And me and some friends, we would make like artwork for posters or for websites for the bands and things like that, you know. So we were just heavily drawing, and then the art started coming back again. And I was like, I'm going to draw some tattoos for people and things like that. Oh, tattoos are cool. I started going around tattoo shops, and then that happened. My friends were getting tattooed. I finally I think I got my first tattoo at 16, I think. There was actually a shop across the street, absolute wreckhead, you know, but that's all I knew about tattooing. I was like, do you know what? I'm going to try and get into this, you know. I remember my mate's dad come home from Amsterdam on a business trip, and he come back, he was like, look, I've got something for you guys. But he was like, you do not use it on each other, right? And he comes in and he just had one of those, like, you know, the Chinese kit where you get it's like 60 quid and you get like 3 machines, all the ink, all the thing.
When you said he's come back from Amsterdam, I didn't know quite what he was going to be bringing back.
Yeah.
Of all of the things you could bring back from Amsterdam, it's like tattoo machine.
Yeah. He was just like, yeah, look, I fell into a guy that had this. He was like, there's skins in there. Like everything. I don't know how they could sell it for 60 quid, you know? And, he was like, right, I'm going out anyway, so do not. And as soon as the door closed, we're like, fucking, let's tattoo each other, you know? Yeah. And that was it. I was buzzed. I was hooked. And then I was going, my tattoo beginning wasn't that great, man. I was going to shops. I relentlessly took portfolios to the shop that was around there. He was like, yeah, come in, bring your whole portfolio though. Yeah. And I was like, okay, this guy's been pretty chill about it. And because I knew he's a bit of an arsehole, you know. And
this is the shop that you went to for your first one at 16?
Yeah.
Fine.
Yeah. And I left my portfolio there, and he was like, look, I've got to go and do some things, so come back and whatever. And I come back, and he was in there with all of his mates, and I was like, yeah, so what do you think of my portfolio? And he was like, what portfolio? And I was like, what? The portfolio that I brought into you. And he was like, I don't know what you're talking about, and just fucking stole it off me.
Fuck off.
Didn't give it back to me, no. And I was there were men like in there, you know, and I was like, what? And he was like, just fuck off kind of thing. And I was like, what the fuck? So I had to start all my stuff, because I was like,
how much work was that? And why did they take it? So they could then tattoo it?
I don't know what he did with it. I just think it was that kind of attitude of like, you're not allowed to tattoo, like only I tattoo, you know? So I don't know. He was a fucking cokehead, man. Like, it's not like his reputation here is shocking, you know? So it was a great move for him for my career, because I would have just went in there and learned everything. So this is when people say, no, the traditional apprenticeship route, I would have got an apprenticeship with him.
Yeah.
And that would have been labeled as a traditional apprenticeship.
Yeah, but then maybe your reputation would have been tarnished if you'd have been known to be learning on the more.
I had a friend that worked with him and he got strung out and that because of him. And it was like, he was using like printer ink in town from the actual printing shop. They had to ban him from going in there because he was using. They knew that he was tattooing people with like printer ink. Yeah, but this was the thing. At the time, that was tattooing for me. The shops that I went into with my friends, it was the same deal. They were just like biker dudes, like all this, So it was like, that was it. Either how else are you going to break into it? And then I started another portfolio, and then again, I took it to the shop. I won't say any names, but like I took it to the shop, and the person there was like, yeah, come in. And again, they're all nice. And I remember I was fucking nuts. This is probably where my anxiety comes from this time of my fucking life. Like I come in, I had my portfolio and I was there, and she was like, and you would never fucking tattoo, man. And I was
ripped your portfolio up.
Yeah. And I was standing there like I could have cried, dude. I was like, I can't do this, man. Like, I went out. I was like, I didn't even take the portfolio. I was like, fuck it. Fuck you, fuck this. And I was walking, I was just like I'm obsessed though. I can't not do it. I can't have these people not tell me. So I just went off the grid and just learned myself. And that was it. And here we are now. But those people, it was like, I remember I couldn't go to conventions. I couldn't do anything like that because I was so nervous that like everyone was like that. And it's not true. Like, so anyone listening to this now to think like, oh, this was years ago, So it was probably about like 14 years ago, I would say, So it was like, it was say it's a different time for some people, but it was like, yeah, tattooing was very, very kept, then. And I understand that, right? I understand it. But in that toxic manner, I couldn't get by it. My morals aren't like that, I wouldn't treat people like that. So I was like, mate, if people are all like this, I can't go into another shop and this happened to me again. I'm going to lose it, And
it takes a certain kind of person to go through those two experiences of a tattooing environment and still say, no, I'm going to tattoo, I'm going to
these guys are wrong. They're wrong. So,
yeah, talk me through how, like, your thoughts there, because some people would have just gone, right, it's not for me, it's not meant to be, and given up.
I just, that was it. I was like, it was boots on the ground. I was just from the ground up. I was like, I need to draw. And it was kind of driven by like, yeah, I need to prove these guys wrong. Like I will.
Did you believe them? Did you think that you weren't good enough at that
It's
time?
hard not to at the time, is it? But it was like, the belief went. The belief went, and I'll be honest with you, I still suffer with that imposter syndrome with it, like kind of thing. Like I still suffer with that all the time, And is it because of that time in my life? Maybe, Like I remember that day vividly. You have points in your life where you're like, I broke my arm, or my sister's boyfriend when we was young, he shot me with a tutor rifle. Yeah. I remember that.
You can remember everything, like down to what you were wearing and everything. Yeah, I've got some times like that.
And I just remember the day, like, we're coming in with my fucking low life belt on and my, Vans and a kid, and I just remember the shame, that butterfly feeling, like you're about to get told off by the head teacher or something. I had that on the home, and I was thinking, everyone thinks this about me. Like this is fact. It's not fact though. It was just, it was, I just bumped into the wrong people. Yeah. Because then through the industry, there were some people that really helped me from then on, So I was in and around tattoo shops and having tips and learning that way. But it was all my own graft, really, which was really like, frowned upon, to do that, like, the scratcher type of thing. But it was like, how else can I do this? How else can I do this? I could, like, where we live now, where I'm situated, I was like, I was like 17 then. But I ain't got no money to go take it up and go to London. And why the hell would I do that if I was met with this response? And then what? Just go into every tattoo shop and then they're just like, they're gonna piss on it next or something. Like, you know, the ante was getting up. Yeah, it's so funny it being stolen, but ripped in front of your face.
I can't believe that happened, you know. Yeah, it was just, but maybe that's what it took in order to get you to where you are, you know. These things happen in life, and I'm a firm believer in things are meant to be. I'm quite spiritual in that way, and maybe that's what it needed. Talk me about the next step, and is there anyone in particular, like a notable figure in your tattooing journey maybe that you kind of met, that you can kind of think, you know, I met them and that might have really helped get me here? Yeah,
there's a lot of people, I would say, more when my career went on, because as I said, I really shied away. Like it was hidden. It was like a secret almost, you know, that I would just make tattoos for just my friends and things like that to make this portfolio. And my friend Josh, who I actually work with now, he went and got an apprenticeship at that time, and he didn't have any issues. And I was learning more through that way. And, you know, I was a lot around, you know, as I said before, different tattoo shops and stuff. But it's hard to say, because I don't want to say any names because I don't want to miss anyone out. Do you know what I mean? But yeah, there's some big people that really helped me with my career for sure, and listening to this, if they are, like they would know, you know, because I say to them, you know, I'm very like open person with that kind of thing, like, you know, you saved my life basically, you know. It was and I guess that's what we're going back to saying, like, you know, the people before you and showing respects to those, like those are my guys, like every day, you know, like they're credible artists. They're, you know, outstanding. It's funny because I went to New York. This was a couple of years later. And this is when I was like, I got asked to do a guest spot with like Timmy B, and so I met Dave Tevenall there and stuff. And it was there. These are some of the guys that were like, you know, really helped me along. I was doing a thing at his shop, and I come back home, and I was at the convention. I ran into the person that ripped up my thing, and they were like, "Yeah, if you ever want to come and." You know, because they were asking me to go and work in New York, right? And it was kind of like I was making a decision to like take my daughter there and do all this. And I was like, do you remember, like, you know,
ripping up my portfolio?
Yeah. Do you not remember that like crazy behavior? You know, I just said, I was like, no, thanks, man. I'm not going to be, you know, I'm not that person. I'm not going to be like, no, fuck you, you know. Every part of my body is saying it, though. But I was
did they?
No, it's cool.
They recognised you. They knew who you were, and they had the cheats.
I still don't know to this day. There's no way you couldn't. There's no way. You know, really weird.
Now you're on board. You know, now you're a supporter.
Yeah. Okay, so I could do it then, because you said I couldn't fucking do it.
Yeah.
Right. But the. I would say the person is my daughter, man. Well, my life changed. So like when my daughter come around, I really stepped my game up then. I was like, okay, this has to be serious. You know, I wasn't with her mum for that long. And I was like, I need to shift into gear now. And that was like the turning point. I remember that. I was like, you know, you have that kind of bit where it's like, I'm still a kid, you know, as well. So it's like just rolling around doing whatever. And that was like, straighten up.
Yeah.
You need to give your all to this, you know.
So I guess I'd want to know, because I'm not a father myself, and you've got 2 kids, am I right? 1 4, 1 10.
Yeah.
How do you find, and how do you manage to balance being a father and being a successful tattoo artist, and, you know, kind of striking that balance?
I had to put some real restrictions on my work, as in I'd have to work only certain days and limit myself to it. When you have a career with a passion that you really love, it's hard to stop. It's hard to just go, I'm just going to do this for a little bit and, you know, I'll put it down or whatever. Because again, I'm obsessive, you know. So I realized that there was parts of my time where I was like, I'm actually missing a lot of my children's life because I'm buried in art. It's maybe going to instill some good habits with them, but they need a dad, you know, as well. So I picked to just do 4 days, and I graft those days. Mm-hmm. You know, they're my days that I'll work, and then my rest of my time is chill. You know, Is it hard being a father and being a tattooer? 100%. You know, and when I'm doing tattoos, and then my wife comes down and she's dropping them off, and they're just like, you're instantly bored sitting around a tattoo shop. You know, like it's hard to kind of have the balance sometimes, but.
They must be so used to it now as well. Like there'd be so many kids that come into an environment like this and be like, "What?" Do you know what I mean? Because usually they're not allowed in.
I know. Yeah.
Do you think
he says the tattoo shop, my little 4-year-old, and we did a video where I put on a Spider-Man stencil on him. I don't know if you saw it. It went viral online. Yeah. And because people were just, you know, absolutely digging me out to be like, worst dad ever. He's going to be a drug addict when he's older. Like, you know, the internet was just ripping him apart, you know. Someone said, because his name's Phoenix, there was like, anyone called Phoenix always turns up to be a dirtbag. And it's like, what? Like, it's a little kid getting a Spider-Man. They actually thought he was going to get the tattoo. Yeah, I bet. It was a little stencil of him just going, cool, in the mirror. I was like, what a nice thing to say for a child. I was like, oh, that's just like me going, every John I know is a paedophile. Like, it makes no sense. Like, that's outlandish comment to say, you know? But,
this is it. This is social media, isn't it?
Social media is crazy.
It's ridiculous. Yeah. I saw that video. I think it's great.
There was loads of, don't get me wrong, there was loads of people on there like, this is so cute. This is really cool. Anyone that had a tattoo was like, oh, I remember my dad doing this when I was a kid and all that stuff. But there was
would you want them to be a tattoo artist? Can you see that for them? Are they artistic? Like,
I don't know whether I should tell my daughter's business plan out just in case someone steals it. Plan. She wants to make a cat cafe, and they do tattooing upstairs, but they only tattoo cats. Not tattooing cats, obviously, because that would be animal abuse. But they just do like tattoos of cats, and she wants it to be called Cat, but in Japanese with a neon sign. And I was like, this is such a good idea, man.
Sick.
Cat cafe downstairs with all the artwork, and that's just cats. She was like, it's just cats. Everything is cats.
You got to make it happen, isn't it?
I know. I need to make it happen. Yeah. So I don't know whether she wants to do that. Like she's very artistic. Like she's on the iPad. She knows all the tricks through and through. And I'll be honest with you, like I don't get the time to sit down with her all the time and show her. She's figured all this out, which is great because
just being around you and
she's
absorbing
just like
it.
Me. Yeah, she would sit there and she would just figure it out for ages, and she just draws anime stuff and Japanese stuff. She loves Japanese culture, like she's obsessed with it, you know. So anytime she's on the iPad, you could see it's like little cute, you know, like what's it, the kawaii kind of, you know, animals and things, and creating these cute scenes with them. But I'm looking at them and I'm like, because I teach people online and I get feedback and I see some of their stuff. I'm like, you're holding your own with like these like adults. You're 10 years old. You know, it's cool to see, man.
Yeah,
you know,
so early as well, you know. She's still so young, like.
And I kind of want to instill into him, like, you know, that kind of school vibe where you're like, oh, do this and you can work for someone. That would be cool. And like, just work for yourself. Like it's, you know, and in and around businesses where they're self-employed, because really every tattooer works for themselves, don't they? So they work under a shop, yeah, sure, but they control their workflow, they control their tattoos. It might be different in some shops, but I really want to instill that kind of like you can actually do whatever you want with your life, you know.
Yeah.
And
there is so much on that point. I said this not long ago, the other day. There is so much stuff like in business, in running a studio, just in being an artist and being self-employed that they just don't teach you at school.
No.
There's so much stuff. And I'm not here to slag off the school system, but there are so many just even basics that they could have gone through, accounting and
I know.
All
taxes.
Of this, taxes. Like
in maths, just do percentages for tax. Yeah, we do percentages, obviously, but like show you why that would be, why they would be useful.
Yeah, and it's like you have to learn all of this stuff on the go, you know, once you're like already in it.
Yeah. And it gets daunting. Do you work in the tattoo shop or do you own your shop?
Yeah, so I own a tattoo studio, me and my partner.
It's daunting to get when you're doing all your tax stuff at first, and then when the cracks are gone, when you figured it out, then it's all right. And I'm like, why am I just hearing about this now?
Yeah.
Why am I hearing about like company house tax now?
Yeah.
You know?
And I went on recommendation and ended up with an accountant for a couple of years, and there were so many things that they just missed. And that's why I've got an accountant, because you're meant to know what you're doing and meant to advise me on the best thing to do.
Yeah.
And there's just basic stuff. And now but like I was, you know what I mean? For those 2 years, there were things that I probably could have been aware of.
Yeah. Mine was like that as well. My accountant being like, oh, by the way, this is happening, so you need to do this. And I'm just like, we're telling me now. I get that we meet.
And it was too late, but like, I'm not even going to go into it because I'll end up on a mad rant. But do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So just like stuff like that, and I think it's great, you know, to be kind of teaching her stuff like that now, even if she doesn't end up as a tattoo artist.
Yeah,
you know?
she can do whatever. This is the thing, is that I never, even though I tattoo, I don't want to put any kind of pressure on them to do whatever, because it might not work out for them. It might not be something that they enjoy. Just because I enjoy it and I'm obsessed with it, I can't just like put that on you. Go and actually do whatever you want, you know. I can't do that, you know, that I was tattooing, so you should tattoo. I used to run track, so you run track, you know, like, and that pushy parent with it, you know, nah.
Yeah. You mentioned that your parents were your parents supportive. I mean, mine, I don't think they saw the vision necessarily. They've always been supportive in some aspects, but maybe not in others. And it's good to be able to do that, you know, and allow your child to do that. And I will certainly make sure that that I'm doing that. There's obviously art in the family.
Yeah.
You own this with your brother.
Yeah.
Is that right? Talk to me a little bit about like your relationship, Legacy, and how Legacy Tattoo itself kind of came to be.
Yeah. So I started Legacy Tattoo by myself. And then my brother he was touring and he was in bands and stuff. And he would film, as I said earlier, he filmed bands. So he'd make music videos and stuff. So he's always very artistic. He was a photographer, was mostly. And I remember he come back from a tour and he was like, you know, bearded and stinking and super skinny because they're just like got no food and no money, you know, in a touring band in a bus for like sleeping, you know, for going around Europe, which he obviously really enjoyed. But when he's coming back to normal life and being like, okay, well, that's all stopped now. I've got nothing. I got all this. And I was like, mate, you should get into tattooing. I'll teach you. And he was like, He was apprehensive at first because he was kind of like, well, we'll see, you know. And I was like, well, you know, you're artistic in these ways. We just apply it to that and we'll sit down and figure it out and see that if it will work. We did it properly. I wanted to teach him properly, not just be like, yeah, just go at it. Yeah. You know, because you're going to run into some chinks in the way, you know. So he started and it was, I always get this question, what's it like to like teach or work with your brother? And to be fair, for me, it's chill. You know, we've got a good relationship. A lot of my shop as well was like foundation was through my family. My family was super supportive. Like my dad used to work with us, and my sister actually runs a laser clinic. So I put them on, she lasers them off.
Love that.
And so it used to all be in one building there, and then their business was getting really busy, so they go and often do their own thing somewhere else. And yeah, so it was all kind of tied like that. Circumstances changed. Now it's just me and my brother now. Yeah. But yes, it's chill. Like, is it hard to communicate sometimes with your siblings? Like, it can be. I'm sure he would say the same thing about me, you know. But nothing detrimental to our working relationship at all, you know. So yeah, it's been pretty chill. I've actually taught a bunch of people. I taught Jess, and I've got an apprentice now, Claire. So it's kind of never ending, the teaching.
That's it. And teaching is something which you really try and push. You run seminars and do a lot of online teaching, like you mentioned earlier. Yeah. I think the stuff is great, man. And I love watching your videos. Talk to me about that and kind of that online teaching.
The online teaching stuff come from, I'm really interested in business, right? When the pandemic happened, we were saying earlier, I was lost, like depression, like the whole thing, you know. And it was only towards the end, really, that I was drawing some things and I was showing just a couple of people privately, like, look, you could draw it this way. Here's some circles, here's some things, like add it all together and you get this, you know. And they were like, that's really helpful. You should make a video of it. And I was like, oh yeah, well, I should do that, you know. And then I started teaching in my spare time and I was thinking, fuck, I wish I did this at the start of the pandemic because I had loads of time.
Yeah, the time to do it. Yeah.
I had all the time and nothing. But I was having such a block at that time that I didn't know. So yeah, it kind of come around from that. And I was like, and those techniques come around from when we go back to when my portfolio was getting absolutely dicked on by everyone. I needed to be like, I was so obsessed with being like, when I seen working with people like Dave Tevenall and things like that, when he was like, he'll go to a convention and be like, I just bring Sharpies. Like, that's it. And I was like, that's wild, you know? And he'd just be like, yeah, whatever concept you want, I'll draw it on. And people were saying to him like, yeah, I want this and this and this. And I'm thinking, fuck, like, and he'd just pen it on and do this. And I was like, I need to be like this, you know?
You need to be able to do that, yeah.
I need to be able to do this. So I studied and studied and studied, even down to it being like, okay, what if reference pictures run out? You know, Pinterest ain't a thing anymore or something, you know, but something ridiculous like that.
But you do, like, actually, even I find now I'm kind of, there is only a limited amount of references online and you do exhaust them after a certain time. I'm now really reaching into like libraries and books. Like I'm collecting books now because a lot of the online stuff does. You
see it and you notice when people have used the same one when you've been scanning through Pinterest and you go, I did that, Tiger.
There's ways to recycle stuff and you're never copying stuff exactly, but like I want to keep it fresh. For me, just to excite me to create the stuff. Yeah. Sorry, but carry on.
Oh no, yeah. So so it kind of just come around with that. Like I was I decided that back to why I was saying this for business, it was a couple of people that I follow and they were kind of like, look, the best reaction to kind of get from people is like, people love free stuff. Like they love free stuff, you know? So if there was something that you could make where you're selling a product or you're teaching, so that's what I do as I'm teaching, that will be a full kind of length video, the whole thing. And then I just made free stuff that you can have for online. That kind of come from the point of like, I am a firm believer that anyone, if you want to, should be able to do art in whatever form you want. So my views on it, because of my beginnings, where I was stamped out to do that, is the polar opposite. I don't want to be like those people. I'd rather share what I can fully, you know, because it gave me all the stuff I have in my life is to do with that, you know. That'd be really cool if you could give that to someone else to be like, you know, I picked up your drawing, you know, Patreon or whatever, and now look at my career now. You know, look, I fly all over the world. I tattoo, I do this, I do that, and you get a taste of what that life's like instead of like, I'm going to hold it to myself. I'm going to rip your portfolio. Yeah, you know, I'm just going to. Yeah, I don't want to be like that at all.
It's contributing to the industry.
Yeah, and I'm not insecure
legacy,
about. Yeah. So I'm not insecure about people coming up and doing that. Like people say, like, oh, you know, people are really doing your style now. That doesn't bother me at all. I love that, you know, because it's like, you know, not even with the whole like flattery. What's it, the saying? You know, imitation
is the highest form of flattery. Yeah. But still, no one's going to do it like you do it. Do you know what I mean? Like,
and you dig my art that much. That's cool. You know, that's cool. Like, you know. Yeah, and I'm not worried about people coming up and stealing my spot. I work hard enough, and if you do, hats off to you, man. You're clearly working hard. You know, so who am I to stop you? Because I don't want to be those people to stop, you know, to do that. So I wanted to make like free content online for people so they can go, do you know what? If you break it down like this, it's not as hard as it looks in some cases, you know. So people are coming back from all walks of the planet, like, you know, of doing drawings, I get them sent daily, like, hey, I did this, thanks for your thing, and blah, blah. And that is the more rewarding thing. Yeah, it's
to get the feedback from that.
Yeah, that is the more rewarding thing. I get messages where they're like, we wait for you to, I'm a dad and I'm with my kids and we wait for you to upload a video and we try and draw it together. And I'm like, that's sick. Yeah. You know, that's cool. It makes it all worth it like that, you know.
Mate, literally, and I mean, it's similar with the podcast. I've only been doing this since February, and for the first few months, it was kind of me on my own.
Yeah.
And I get so excited when I get messages coming through and people being like, oh, like, love the podcast. Love that you had this guest on. Just love listening to it. And it's crazy to think, you know, that what you're making, you know, people
touch someone's life.
Yeah, and someone's like, it's benefiting someone in some way.
Yeah.
That, for me, is the most important thing. Do you know what I mean? If I can do something for the industry or just improve someone's life in that aspect, then
yeah, you know? And give people a voice that probably don't, because that's the thing. Is like, you know, I'm not going to diss any kind of company out there now or anything to do of that nature, but like, say like, yeah, magazine companies or something, they're going to want to pick like, okay, here's a high profile person. We want to sell magazines. I get it. Businessman, you know, we get it, you know. But then when you're giving people something that may have not had the opportunity, that's cool, you know, that's cool. So it's like when you see these, like some of them are kids that are like sending me these drawings and they don't have iPads or anything like that, and they're doing it pen and paper, and you could tell like even the lighting that they're taking it with or the phone they're taking it with is like, you know, they're not got all this new stuff and doing this. They're from a walk of life. I got one, there's like people from Ecuador that was sending me things and being like, oh yeah, we love your drawing things and look what I've drawn. And they're kids like drawing the thing. And I'm like, yeah, that was me then. I never got that opportunity. I got met with closed doors. Yeah. You know, I'm glad that you're doing that. And if you're in a corner of the world as well, where you're not really getting the, you know, the opportunity or anything, like around here as well, it's like you can get a factory job, you know, there's not a high street here. You could, yeah, sure, you could go over to the next city, but like you got money to get a car, you're going to get the bus, you got this, you're limited, you know. And I did that graft myself in that kind of condition. I'm not saying this is you know, I'm really hard up here. I'm not saying that at all. But, you know, I'm almost giving that ladder to someone else, which is great. So when you're in that, like, you know, the butt of nowhere. Yeah.
But if you've got the passion, it should be accessible. Yeah.
Yeah. If you see an Instagram post, if your phone can connect to Instagram, you're away. Let's do this, you know. There's
no reason why anyone shouldn't be able to do that, you know.
No.
Like, some of the biggest achievers, you know, are people who came from nothing.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's mad. It's what really social media kind of has done for the industry as well.
Yeah, great. Yeah.
You yourself are doing well, you know, you've got quite a large following on social media. When did you first notice the growth in that? Did that come off the back of the tutorials and the seminars, do you think? Or has it just been a kind of a
slow thing over the years? Yeah. This question's kind of an odd one for me because I'll get people, I always say to people when they come, they'll send me a message and go, you've got a huge following. How do I do that? They don't ask. Like, I'm like, dude, it's like years.
Everyone wants it overnight.
They want it overnight, yeah. And so it is a gradual thing. It's just consistent posting. Yeah, there's a game to it, isn't there? You've got to post at a certain time, I guess. But your content's got to be engaging.
Yeah.
That's what everyone's missing out. They're going, oh, I posted it at 6 and I got no likes. It's like, maybe you have to look at what it is you're posting, you know? So Instagram as the tool is great in some respects, but there's a big kind of movement now of like blaming Instagram for all of your faults almost, you know. And it's just like when people come to me with those questions, I'm like, dude, you need to enjoy the journey, not the destination, because if you're not enjoying the journey, people are going to see that. If you are enjoying the journey, people are definitely going to see that.
Yeah.
And you're going to have more opportunity to do more tattoos, which you're then going to post. You're enjoying it. People online are going to go, that looks good. But why does it look good? Oh, it's because someone really enjoyed making that. Like it's the fun element. I'm not doing this to be like, let's just do this color and do this for impact because it gets more likes or it gets more views. Like, I think people can see that.
They see straight through it. They can see the originality and they can see when you're being genuine.
Exactly. And you're enjoying it. Anything that you do that you enjoy, of course it's going to come out better. You know, like it's just, that's the simplest form of enjoying a craft, you know, like, yeah, it's like you need to enjoy the journey, man, because the death. What I'm going to send you some followers, or you're going to buy one of those machines that gets you all the followers or whatever. Like, that's not fun. Yeah. You know,
I mean, I feel like, and this is something that I need to learn as well. You know, I'm still in the process of learning that.
And no one cares.
I just kind of set myself the goal, like the destination, but like it's just ever moving.
The
goalposts just keep moving.
It will keep going. You're never going to get there.
Yeah, and then if you're not enjoying that journey, then you genuinely will. I guess your whole life will pass, and you won't have enjoyed any of it.
You go, oh, I got 100,000 followers though. Who cares?
Yeah,
really. That's the thing, is when people say, they're just like, you know, oh, it's great because you've got a big following and stuff like that, and it's like, and it's rich for me to say. No, it doesn't matter. I see people that have half or even below the following that absolutely kill it, you know, and like, that's what I do now. I do the thing on, I actually missed it today because I was so nervous about this. I do, like, on Sundays, I will find artists that are killing it and they have small followings, and I'll shout them out for the day to be like, and I do it as a thing like, people you should know. So algorithms don't get their hand of them, because I know what that's like. You know, I get it. There's a game to it. There's some maps to it.
And like now, even I think even the last like year or two, they've changed it so much that like, I think, not that it was necessarily easier to build a following. Well, maybe it was, you know, but now like,
who knows?
People starting now, who knows? Right, this kind of is quite a good time for me to give you the question which was left for you by the previous guest.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so spring this one on you.
Right.
And that was...
What is the best tip or trick that you've learned through your tattooing career, or just like one thing that you've learned that has made your job a lot easier or more fun to do?
Oh, no. It's got to be the iPad. Everyone hates it. I get it. It took me ages to get into it, right? Because I was like, nah, man, pen and paper. I was doing Sharpie drawings and all this because I love my craft. And I was like, nothing digital is going to come up to that, because it's new, it's weird, you know? And I was so wrong, because then I realized how much I love all art, because then I got into digital art, illustration, all this. Coming into a customer and you go, I've drawn this, but you go bang, 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 here's all the colors. You're away, and I can really look at it. I can really push the boundaries with using tools like that, you know, to be like, this, if we do it like this, it could look like this. And yeah, it's just a concept, an idea of like, yeah, it could look like this. It might not translate into tattooing all the time, but I can do that in seconds, you know, that to show someone. And especially when you learn all the tools and you're getting through, like, I would say that's when it really, I was like, I can sit down and really push what I'm trying to do now, where it would have took me hours before, or days or weeks sometimes, to get a concept down on pen and paper, screwing it up, throwing the bit, getting the new bit out, screwing it up, going, fuck, you know, so.
It's the efficiency it brings, you know. Are you a Procreate user?
Yeah, Procreate, yeah. So
do you brushes and stuff? Do you got your own?
Got my own brush set coming out soon, I think.
Sweet. So talk to me about that and where that came from.
It's still in the. I don't know if I could talk about it. I don't know actually.
Maybe
if I
you can, maybe you can't.
Coming soon. I don't know.
Okay, so there we
keep
go.
an eye out for it. I wanted it to be like so something I can give back to my Patreons and stuff like that as well, to be like, look, this is I want to be really clean and crisp and open with everything that I do. So I was like, wanted to make a set to be like, this is exactly it. There's nothing, if you're using this is what you appear and what you'll see. I don't want to hold any information away, you know. So I thought, make a set. And
sick. I'm excited to see it, man.
Yeah, send it your way.
Looking forward to it. What would you say is your greatest achievement to date?
Oof. I've won some awards at conventions. They're always like a big thing, you know, for me. I'd say some of my first ones were, but I'll be honest with you, after all of that kind of stuff, it's still the teaching, I would say. because I like what it brings for other people. When I did a seminar here, there was a girl that flew out from the States to come to the seminar, tattoo seminar. And, I was like, look, if you guys, because I'm going to be speaking like I am now, they pay some money for it, obviously. I want you to get the best thing. You can record this whole thing if you need it, or voice record it at any points to do all this, just so you can refer back to if you need to. So she was like really engaged, and they all were. It was a really, really great day. But anyway, she messaged me afterwards, and she went to a convention back in the States when she flew back, and she messaged me pictures of awards. And she was like, I did everything you said. I come and did my tattoo, and look, I've got these awards, my first thing back. And I was just like, that's really cool. Crazy. And it's not even my achievement, it's her achievement. I'm not sitting here to be like, I did that. Yeah. She did that. She's opened herself up and did retained all the knowledge and put it forward. And yeah, that feeling when you're like, we did something there, that's cool. That's a nice achievement. Yeah. I like that,
Crazy to be able to say that, You're obviously a massive inspiration for a lot of artists. But I guess I want to know who your inspiration is and who inspires you, maybe artistically or outside of tattooing.
Yeah. Tattooing has always been Dave Tevenell. I like his work ethic. He does burn himself to the ground sometimes, but we talk about that and catch each other off, He's really the soul of art, the tortured artist kind of thing. Find what you love and let it kill you kind of thing, I'm not saying that is the best route to go down, but we need people like that who have done that graft before. They know all the skills, they know all this. Like, I remember I went to New York and I was tattooing and thing. I'd never been so intimidated in my life. Not of him, he's a lovely guy, and we're good friends. He was doing a hand tattoo that he's just drawn on. So I was like, oh, that's so cool. And he's going at it. He goes out the back for a cigarette, and I was coming out the back of him, and he's just like spraying this graffiti piece, like while he's talking to me, having a cigarette, just like in between, on the break of the tattoo. And that was, well, I was like, whoa, what is this? This amazing piece. He's like, yeah, I'll probably sell that later, and I've got another tattoo in, and I'll just finish this off. I'm just like, dude, you don't stop, And but it's effortless. It's not like he's going, oh, I'm going to do this quick thing. I'm doing it. He's just coming out. And that was really inspiring for me to be like, if I could take 15% of that, I'd be happy, So yeah, shout out to Dave.
Yeah, the work
people
ethic.
Outside, I don't know. I'm very driven by my family, So yeah, I mean, that's it. My life is it's very chill. I know I spoke about that stuff before, and honestly, everything's pretty chill. They really ground me. And over these years, it's been, I've needed it more than ever, So yeah, I'd say I know it's typical, like my wife and kids and stuff, but it is true. It's like, if I come with problems or if I come with things to my wife, she's there to, talk me through it, do whatever. And she calms me down, and she's very understanding and very kind of open person.
Is she involved in the industry, or what does she do?
She actually does piercing now.
Okay.
Yeah, she didn't before. She actually owns a dance studio, like a pole dancing studio called Aerial Motion. But before that, she was a mental health nurse. So that's her main career was that. And then she was like, look, I'm thinking about starting this as a business. And the way I am, I'm like, go for it. Yeah. Go for it and just try it, because you might as well. If you fail, that's chill. It's just a blip in your life. Yeah. You need to try it.
It's better to have tried it and failed, isn't it?
Exactly. Yeah. And it was funny because then a shop opened, which is actually across the street there, her place. It opened up. Some people moved out, and I was like, go see the landlord and see what they say. And it was really fast, but I was like, it's now or never, just try and do it. And she did that, and now she runs a really successful business doing that. And then she was like, I'm going to get into piercing. And, you know, when the kids are going to school and stuff, I'll do this. So she went and she did a course of that. And she's the same as me. I'll be in bed and like, you know, the phone lights on and she's on Patreon following these piercers and stuff and really learning everything after her initial course training. She's obsessed. You know, and I remember, like, I see when I look over, I was like, yeah, I remember those days where I was like absolutely obsessed with tattooing. I couldn't put it down, you know. So it's nice to have people like that in the industry that are actually like that obsessed with it, you know, because it feels like you're in safe hands with someone, you know, when they're like, you know, what would you want to be in the hands of someone who's like, yeah, it's cool. I do it for the image mostly.
Yeah.
You
I just do it because it makes me some money.
Yeah. It pays good, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And you're like,
oh man, I will never understand that thought process. But even likening that, and I'm not, because everyone's in a different position, but like when I speak to people and ask them what they do and they say, oh, you know, it pays the bills. I'm like, you've got one life. Like you have to pursue what excites you and what makes you happy. Even if it means failing again and again. Again, like,
I say that all the time to them. It's like, it's fun to fail. I say this to my kids. You know, it's fun to fail because I learn. I'm not starting again. I'm starting from experience. You know, it's not from the ground up again. So all the stuff that you even see, I was actually going to make this into a video online because you see my videos, how they are presented.
Yeah.
When I come out, I've already done that drawing, right? So this is a little trick, teaser or behind the scenes to make it so I can draw it that fluently. I've already figured it out. So I draw it like 2 or 3 times and then I'll make sure that it's you know, for good content online. Yeah. So I was going to make this video for people to be like, you know, the things about Instagram and the illusion of Instagram. I fail all the fucking time and I love it, you know, because I'll get the one right and I go, okay, now I'm going to try and do that again. But the many times I have to click the camera off and go delete, start again, you know, and draw it all again.
You never know.
Yeah, but online it just looks like, oh, it's done one time off the rip. No.
Just smashed out.
Hours of graft still.
I love that you admit that as well.
Yeah.
There's not enough people would openly admit that.
Yeah.
That says a lot about you and your character, you know. So important.
So what you're seeing is live, essentially.
Yeah. But
I know it. There's some that you do one pass on because I've done hundreds of them before, you know, it's easy. But yeah, I've sat there and figured it out before I have to, you know, and I want to kind of instill that, especially now that the Patreon's getting a good traction and following to be like to people like, if you aspire to be like me, then you should know everything about it. And the truth is that if that was paper, the room would be filled with paper because it's starting again, you know,
the
all
bins
the time.
Piled up.
Yeah. The room, I remember the rooms of the days of paper where it was like paper just all over the floor, you know, and it's just there. And it's like, I remember just like even doing the first line and you're like, it's not as good as I need it. And then again, you know, so it's essentially showing that part. I wanted to make a video to kind of show that part, to be like, look, you know, Instagram's the pretty version of everything, isn't it? You know, so don't be sitting here and going, oh my God, like I'll never be like that. It's like, truth is, I'm not like that as well. You know, you've got to do the graft behind the scenes to present yourself a certain way, you know.
So true. Right, let's get on to the nerdy bit.
Okay.
I was trying, because personally for me, I guess what I would love to know is like equipment that you're using, like needles, like your kind of go-to stuff, like machines.
Yeah.
And in particular, I'd love to. You're a Radiant ink user mainly?
Yeah. So
I'd love to know what that is. It like a pink or a purple, like a magenta color that you're using? Do you have like a specific one, or are you mixing them?
Yeah. It's called Rodeo Red.
Oh, nice.
The thing about that color though is you need to use it by itself if you want it to look red. If you use it with orange if you use it with another red, it looks really orange. It's really weird. It like completely changes the color. So you have to kind of pick it well for color schemes that you have. So normally if I do like a tattoo where I'm like, okay, I will minimize as many colors as I have so one color gets the spotlight. So that's the way I kind of drive everything to make that color look the boldest, right?
Yeah.
So So if you pick rodeo red and you do it, the tattoo will look red if you drive it to, like I said, with that color. If you add another red, say if you just use their like lipstick red, which looks red, it makes rodeo red look orange.
Oh wow, okay.
So, but when you see it by itself, you'll be like, that's red. And you put red next to it and it's like, oh, that's orange. Which is kind of a fun color to play with on that sense, because it will change with the scenery of how you design a piece. So sometimes when I'm going, well, I'll use orange, but I'll use the red because I'll just saturate more of a red into the piece. That drives it to look more orange. And it's weird. You'll go, that is orange.
Yeah,
no, that's red.
So what was the concept like use it with this Radiant, I would say. Is that one of your favourite kind of brands to use?
Yeah, and they actually did an ink set for me as well. I've got like a tin. I'll give you one, actually. Yeah, I've got one here. It's got my face on it.
Lovely. Well, I've definitely want it then.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Radiant stuff is cool, man. I love the whole branding and everything.
Yeah.
I love their stuff.
They're really good company to work with. They're like, I'm not just saying that because I work with them. Like, they're very in tune with like keeping up with like what you like and what's working, what's not working, very generous with their sponsorship and things like that. So yeah, it's good. They're good guys.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah.
What about machines and needles?
So I use Cheyenne. I've used them for a while now. I did used to use the Spirit years ago. And it was funny because that's normally a black and grey machine. But I used to use it for colour. And it was really saturate colour well, I found, So I think as well with those type of machines, you're going to have to use their cartridges because it's like, they go seamlessly, it's almost like trying to put a different puzzle in when you use it will use other cartridges, but it just doesn't feel like the whole, do you know what I mean?
They're built for those
They're
things.
built for the machine, of course. So yeah, it's I actually put up a video recently where I did a review of it, and it's just like a jokes video of me like making machine noises with my mouth and stuff as it was going, because everyone was begging me. They're like, oh, please put up a review. I put up an honest review about it. Working with companies like that is great because they'll hear you out as well. They're a good one. So giving them honest feedback about the machines isn't ever intimidating because they're like, we love honest feedback, and we love to grow our piece. So at the moment I'm using the Unlimited, and I just got a 5-stroke. And that 4 lines that I've been using is just game changer. I had the 4 before, the 4-stroke, same machine, same weight, all that kind of stuff. But it was with the lines, it was hard to kind of, get that punch in it.
Just that extra mill's going to give you that punch. Yeah. I mean, I'm a bit of a Bishop fanboy, and I've got all of the ones. Yeah. The liner is a 5mm stroke, and it's just so powerful.
I hear a lot of people that when I put up the review, everyone was mentioning, they were like, oh, Bishop, have you ever tried Bishop and stuff like that? So yeah, I've heard that name coming around. I have used them in the past, but now for me, just having the ease of having I used to be one of those people where I was like, all my tables, machines, I'd have like one for like really tight, fine lines, one for like medium and big, and then like soft shade, just black, and then whip shade.
So extra.
Yeah, it was extra. Yeah, and then I'd have and also a Spirit pen on there. And now I've like just one. Yeah, just one does it all. Especially when you learn the mechanics of it more. I think it was then I was like trying to figure things out at the same time. So just the ease of it as well. Just having it all in one place to be like, I know how this works. I'm familiar with it. We do this to get this result. And that's great. Instead of like, I've got 100 machines set up and
I feel like it's important to play around with different brands and different needles, different configurations, different machines. Definitely. But I feel like you always do kind of tend to come back to,
you have your homeboys, don't you?
Yeah, exactly. The workhorses.
Yeah.
Needle wise and brands, have you got anything that you prefer to use and why?
Yeah, so it would be the same. The Cheyenne, they bought out just recently like I can't remember what they're called. It's like an XL.
What, they're capillary ones?
Yeah, I think so. And it's got a lot more needles in it.
Oh, fine. Yeah. I know what you're on about.
And then they make them bigger. So when you're putting that into the 5-stroke and you're pulling these lines, it's crazy. You know, you obviously got to be a bit careful with that kind of stuff because like you want the tattoo to age well. You know,
you don't want to slap so much ink into the skin.
Yeah. Because I've actually trying to rewind that back recently with my work to be like, look, because you know what it's like when you're doing a design. And sometimes I haven't done a color plan for it, but I know what I'm doing roughly. And I do this bold line next to it, and then I've next to a part where I'm going to saturate black. And I'm like, I didn't need to do that bold line there. It would look the same with a 9 or it would look the same with a 7, you know, because I've just blacked it out.
Yeah.
So it's like unnecessary trauma to the skin because that's like I always try when I'm trying to teach, I'm just like, look, we're trying to give the less impact, you know, to the skin as possible, you know, we're not dragging the earth out of them, you know.
Yeah.
So you find clean tattooing, you know, it's like.
Yeah. Oh man. I mean, I do try and pride myself as well, just on, minimal trauma to the skin.
Yeah.
It heals better, and if it heals better, that's good for you. It's good for the customer.
Yeah.
There is a way of getting the ink into the skin, you know, without causing ridiculous amounts of trauma. That old school attitude of just smashing it in.
People and they're just like, oh, just dive it in harder. I'm like, don't do that.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. So that's so important. Yeah, focusing on the longevity of the piece for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, talk to me. You mentioned a little bit about sponsorship. So talk to me about kind of who you work with, any collaborations that you've got at the moment, who your sponsors are, and how that kind of came around.
Yeah. So Cheyenne Radiant. I work a lot with Tattoo Smart. They do like brush sets and stamps and things like that. So I do a lot of project work for them in my spare time. This is the thing, is like I tattoo in the week, I do Patreon and teach, and then I do projects as well. So I'll be like, my normal work day will look like I draw for my tattoo, I come in and do my tattoo, and then I have to do like...
Do you draw it on the day?
Depends what it is. If it needs more time or if it's bigger, no. You know, I would do it like sketch it out the night before. So I figured it out. And then I'm kind of like cleaning it up in the morning early because I get up super early in the morning, you know. So, I'll have the time designated for that. But, yeah. I don't know where I was going with that.
No, we're talking about like your usual working day, kind of pre-drawing a bit and kind of how you. I just can't fathom it. Like artists are so busy, and it's a time-consuming process. You know, how can you fit your drawing, your work life, and everything into
I don't know how I do it sometimes.
Yeah,
I'll come back home and I'll be like, now I've got to do 4 drawings for a project as well, and then I've got to do my tattoo drawing. And then I've got to do this. So, and I have to be careful because I don't want any of them to lack. You know, like I'm not rushing one of them to have the other. But so I do some nice projects with them. I do. I work with Hobo Jack doing like some clothing stuff with them. Yeah, so that's cool. I like just having little side projects, so I'm just away from tattooing all the time as well. If it could get to that point one day, then that would be great because, just being a father and all that stuff is busy enough, let alone like the continuous workflow. I love tattooing, and I would like it to be back to the point where it was like I can tattoo like some select people, and they're kind of, you know, they get the best out of me. Do you have a vision or a goal for maybe yourself or for Legacy in the next sort of 5 or 10 years? Where can you see it going? I don't know if we're outgrowing this place as well, you know. Are you ready to move? You ready to expand? Not, yeah. I wouldn't know where to, but the goal. I think the goal is we're working with my brother, and we have an assistant D, so I do all the Patreon stuff with them. So she will organize all the any project stuff we do actually together. So she'll organize like all the logistical stuff and all of this. So that takes that ease. And then Chris does all the filming and like the editing and stuff for social media. And we've really been sitting down and kind of, we can see the reaction we're getting from it. And we're like, we should put some more time into this, you know? So I think that's where we're heading with that, is the kind of focus. Just having guests down and, I don't know. It's been so many years that we've been busy for so long that it will feel like now in the time of your life, you're like, are you ready to do another shop all again? And
it's a lot.
That? It's a lot, isn't it? Yeah. So it's like, I don't know. I'm chill.
Yeah, good. Just kind of just letting it just naturally, organically develop, I guess. That's what it's about. Yeah, I mean, talk to me a little bit about guests and stuff. Like you have a lot of guys down here.
Yeah. We've had some great guys down here. We try and do it as regularly as possible. But yeah, I'd love to have guests because it gives that new perspective, like, you know, what people are doing, and you hear some tips and tricks and all that stuff. Because like the guys, like, you know, they're great that we all bounce off each other here, and that's great for having like the environment that we do. But we kind of know each other's things. There'll be little things, you know, that we will share some days that because it's new or we've heard or something. But then when you have a guest in and they're coming in and you're like, what is going on? Why are they tattooing like that?
In a completely different way.
In a completely different way, yeah. So that's really cool.
Yeah.
Like we had Luke down, like Luke Ashley, and he's doing palms. And I never really, like, I got my palm done, but I never really like dove into, I haven't done a lot of palms in my career, you know? So seeing that process and seeing how they staying and doing that from someone, well, he's like the best at it, you know? Yeah. So it's like,
I've had him on the previous episode, and like he's dedicated so much time to mastering that, you know?
Yeah.
I find it so impressive.
And I think the cool thing about it is that it's all he does, you know? Doesn't it? He said the other day that someone asked him for a tattoo on their ribs or something. He was like, it was a friend of his. And he was like, and I was just shitting it for ages. It's like, because I just like doing palms, you know?
Yeah.
And it's cool to have that really niche thing like that. And when you've got a guest like that coming down where you're like that ball of knowledge, that's all you do. You know, he obviously does other things, like, but you know, that's what your craft, like your all your knowledge is in. But I get to see it. You know, and I get to ask. So that's the really cool thing about guests. And they do the same with me as well, you know, like, because I'm very open with my information, you know, to anyone. So
I think it's so important. I think guest spots are so important. Sharing knowledge, you know, working at other studios. I would never want to just work in a private space on my own, because I think you have to learn from other people.
Yeah. I get that vibe. I used to work on my own little points in my life.
I get it works for some people if that's what they want to do. And I think nowadays, like, because there are so many tattoo artists, these private spaces are popping up more and more.
Yeah.
And if it works for them, then cool. I will never want to be in a space like that.
Yeah. I really like bouncing off of other people too much, and just even hearing and seeing other clients. You know, like even if it's like their own personal client that I'm working next to, the day seems a lot nicer. But I do get it. Some people that suffer with like, you know, social anxieties or whatever, and a private space is their best option. So this isn't a shit on a private studio at all. You know, if it's like you said, if it's working for you, then go in. But for me, nah, I'm a people person, man.
Yeah, man.
Like, you know, that's the big part for tattoo shops for me, where you get people from all over, all walks of life come through a tattoo shop. That's the cool thing, you know, and they're canvases as well. So it's like, I just get to see and meet interesting people every day. I don't have a day where you're like, oh, I'm going.
Yeah, it literally is. I've said it before, and it's cringe, but it is the best job in the world, man.
Yeah,
and it, like you said earlier, but it saved me for sure.
Yeah,
I was in a really shit place, you know. But if you weren't a tattoo artist and you could be doing anything else, what would it be?
Oof, I think a chef, you know. I've grown to like that more, and I do a lot more cooking at home and things like that. And I like that there's still kind of artistic, there's artistic merit in it.
Oh,
like
mate, it's creative. Yeah, of course.
Yeah, really, it's still creative. I get when, because I put this up on Instagram one time and chefs like messaged me. They were like, dude, do not be a chef. It's horrible. And I was like, really? They're like, it's horrible, dude. Don't. It was like, I was as enthusiastic as you are about it. And dude, I'm 10 years in, do not trade your job for this.
Yeah.
But I'm thinking like, I know everyone wants to think the big, but I'm like, high-end chef, like, like these fucking guys on TV flying out the world to cook you a steak or something like that, or something to do with like, Asian food or something like that, fusion food or street food. I'd love to have a food van, and do that thing. And people come and they're like, dude, like their whatever pancakes or something, whatever you're selling is like, and it gets famous for that kind of thing. Like, I would really enjoy that, I think.
Yeah. I love, man, that would be so sick. I haven't put enough time and effort into being really good at it. I enjoy cooking, anything creative, There's something to do with music, I do a bit of DJing. I collect a lot of records. I've always said that probably like becoming like an international DJ or an F1 driver.
Oh, yeah.
But aside from those two, tattoo artist all day.
Yeah, I know.
We're in such a fortunate position, man. But yeah. What do you think maybe the industry needs more of? Is there anything like we talk about like how popular it is now? Do you think the industry is lacking in anything that you're kind of seeing as it's growing? And
yes, there is one. And I think I think professionalism in the workplace. I think people doing things like, we were talking earlier about first aid and knowledge on that side, knowledge about mental health, knowledge about, I don't know the word for it, but like, someone's sexual orientation, or I don't know.
Yeah, awareness of that.
Yeah, awareness of this. So people it's a safe place for everyone, and this could mean like people even like employers, I don't know how far you want to take it, but like, even down to like DBS checks and things like that, because what it's like in the industry where there's like,
you do hear some horror stories. You
hear some horror stories.
I'm not going to name any name, but you do hear things, and we're put in a position of trust, and
exactly
these environments have always, and some still are, very intimidating for people who come in, especially first timers who've never set foot in a tattoo studio.
Yeah,
that professionality in creating a non-intimidating space, I think is so important.
I think just even down to like just business owners, as in studio owners and artists themselves, going like, I always kind of think this, like, I look at myself as I'm the business, for myself, how can I come across the best way for my clients? And I think that's just like, it's a reasonable, normal thing to be like, well, I'm versed in doing these courses and things like that. And if anything happens to you in our studio, you're safe. You're in safe hands, and that it's not just about the art. It's customer service, Gone are the days where you come and go, fuck you want, sit down or slap on your arm and do all that.
That's
like,
what you're having.
If you want to do that, go ahead. But I just think like for me personally, I would like professionalism, so go doing a first aid course here and there, or being clued up on social, things. Not saying you need to be a political campaigner or something like that, or an activist or something. Yeah. But just having some knowledge of that kind of thing, to think like, look, there's women that come in tattoo studios, or there's people of different races that come in tattoo studios, and it can be an intimidating experience for people. And we're here to go, it doesn't have to be. Gone are the days of that, and it's a safe place,
Yeah. So in order for that to happen, the artists need to be trained in that.
It's down to the individual, I think, isn't it?
And they need to understand that, because the people coming through in the industry are the product of their mentors, aren't they? If you're going through a proper apprenticeship, is there another way? And what is your opinion on like academies or tattoo schools? And because I feel like another 10 years, is that going to be something, or should it still be a a protected apprenticeship done in that way? I mean,
I think down to just because even down to that, say a seminar, I picked to have. We had loads of people message to come to seminars, and we was like, yeah, this is great. Let's just fit them all in and do all this, you know. And then we got to thinking, and it was like, well, it's not a intimate experience, and how much are you going to learn without it being an intimate experience, you know? I don't want to just make money off these people. I need them to learn something, because what better advertisement than, like I said earlier with that girl, you know, winning awards and doing this, and they're saying the day was great and we were catered for, and I learned a lot, you know, doing that. I don't see the issue with people passing on their knowledge in that sense. Tattoo school, though, a school environment, it's a hard one to kind of pull off into this thing, isn't it? If you've got like 30 students in a class.
Yeah, it's a tricky one. It's definitely a tricky one. It's like, I think actually learning within a studio environment, I think
you're surrounded by it.
That's invaluable. That's probably the most important, you know. But yeah, it's something to think about, in it, and we don't know where it's going to go. But like, as long as there are people like yourselves kind of pushing the important things, you know, and like customer service for me, I'm a stickler for that. I think it's so important.
Yeah.
Cool, man. Yeah, sweet. So I guess like let's wrap it up and just, where can people find you, and have you got any kind of conventions and guest spots coming up? I know you spoke a little bit about them, but where are you at with that now? Do you do traveling, or are you really you're based here and this is where people can find you?
Yeah, mostly based here, because we mentioned earlier, my son's health isn't always the best time to time, so leaving is not always the best option. So down here, Haverhill in the UK.
Yeah.
It's kind of it's a small town. I guess the rest is I'm just on Instagram, literally just on Instagram. So I think I got a Facebook, but I never go on it. Yeah. Sweet. Yeah, try to keep it simple.
Lovely stuff. And can people find you at conventions and guest spots coming up? Or?
I think I'm going to try again next year. Is going to be my kind of pushing point. I definitely will be in Berlin, because I've got some good friends there that at their studio over in Dergrim.
Yeah.
So I always love going over to there. So because it's kind of at this point now where I like to pick to go see friends and do that kind of stuff, and I treat that as like, it's like my tattoo holiday, even though I'm working the whole time. You know, it doesn't feel like it when you do something you love, you know. So, you definitely will see me in that part of the world. You know, I said for ages that I really wanted to get out to the States, because I have a load of people asking me about that. But again, I just don't know right now, you know. So
watch this space.
Watch this space, yeah.
There you go. And yeah, mate, let's wrap it up. And all I try and get people to do really is to leave a question for the next guest, rather. Do you have one? And if so, fire away.
Okay, so what was the most challenging or difficult part of your career, and why? Is it to do with equipment? Is it to do with people that you ran into in the industry? Is it to do with situations in your life? Why was it so difficult?
That's great, man. I love that. Sweet. Thank you so much for being a part of the podcast, and thank you for having me down, man. Like, I just want to take this opportunity, to just like say thank you for what you're doing for the industry. You know, just pushing the boundaries, giving to people. You know, it's what we need, and kind of just being open and honest, and not holding on to that stuff. I'm a massive fan of your work, and
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, I just look forward to seeing what you've got in store, you know, for the future. But yeah, thank you, man.
Let's see.
Sweet. Cheers, bro.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening. I hope you've enjoyed the podcast this week. Don't forget to hit the bell icon and the follow button to be notified of every new release wherever you listen to your podcasts. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button on YouTube as well. I'm Alex Lloyd, and this is the 21st Century Tattoo. Thanks for listening.